Welcome in to another episode of Bare Bones. My name is Mason West, and as sometimes I am joined by Danny Meehan. Danny, how you doing today?
As sometimes I appreciate that because I'm your regularly scheduled co-host, except for when I can't get off work. So only sometimes. But I'm good, man. I got my Starbies here, and ready for my caffeine to kick in because I'm a little tired this afternoon.
Yeah, we were just saying it's actually just a little different. Where you went with caffeine, I went with coffee infused flavor of this barrel aged beer from Moore. So pretty much the same thing.
It's like the same kind of buzz, right? Caffeine and alcohol.
Oh, absolutely. And just so people know, maybe if you're catching this later, apparently Twitter doesn't want to go live right now. So if you tried listening to this on Twitter before, I'm sorry. I'll keep it in the button trying to send it there eventually, but it's not going. And you may notice we're missing someone, Khari Thompson, who is supposed to be here, but he's not. So when he comes in, we'll hit live for him too. But
more like Kyrie Jerkson, am I right?
But I have too many things open right now to play the sound. I normally would, and I was not ready for that. But we got to dive into stuff because we got a lot of things on our plate. So, Danny, first off, actually, I had to put that too. DJ Moore, you are a Bear. What are your thoughts on DJ Moore?
That I can barely believe it. Sorry, I know you're not prepared for these, and I'm not.
Wait, no. I had to. I got there.
We're already going off the rails. We're 2 minutes in.
Oh, absolutely.
It's exciting, man. That there was talks over certain receivers that could be available via trade. It was, your typical Nuke Hopkins in Arizona. There was talk along with Brandon Cooks was available at one point until he wasn't, kind of thing. And there was the rumbling of DJ Moore, but no one actually knew if they were going to, because the speculation was if they were moving up to 1, 2, or 3, whatever it might have been. It ended up being number 1, obviously. That why would you give up the young quarterback or the young wide receiver when you're drafting a young quarterback kind of thing? I can't believe it. The guy was the only receiver in football from 2019 to 21 season that had more than 1,200 yards of scrimmage each one of those years. So it's hard to not like the pickup, especially because he's a man beater and he gets super open.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, forever, I know I was definitely one of the people that was shooting that down. I mean, I think must have been last week I did when we did the mock, I did a Panthers trade and I had Brian Burns as a part of it. And I started that by saying, I'd prefer DJ Moore in this, but I don't think it's going to happen. Let's put Brian Burns in because maybe he's more likely. But, Panthers are going to do Panthers things apparently. And at the end of the day, you're starting a team, you need the quarterback. And if the thing preventing you from getting the quarterback is a DJ Moore, you got to do what you got to do. I can understand why they did it. I mean, it hurts. It sucks. And for me, at least, too, the crazy part is, you hear these reports where DJ Moore is valued above a first-round pick, right? Teams like the Packers, another team I can't remember, offered a first for him. You put him in this deal. Also, was it a few? So you got the future first, you got a future second, and the DJ Moore on top of that, along with the currency you got for this year. That's a steal, in my opinion. And when you have someone like him who he does a lot of his work over the middle, he can go deep. I mean, he's going to be Justin's best friend.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Kyrie.
Hey, guys. How are we doing? Sorry. No, go ahead. Just listen to you talk.
I got it.
You're making great points.
You just enjoying all of this?
Yeah, seriously. I'm the kind of person that generally in conversation, I like to listen. I like to just take it in, and then if I've got something to say, I'll jump in. I was about to cut one of you off and be like, oh yeah, DJ Moore is awesome, but I mean, come on, who wants that?
Well, Khari, you can participate in this little mini game that we're going to throw in here before we move on to some free agency talk. Name the quarterbacks that have thrown a pass to DJ Moore in the NFL.
So Kyle Allen, was it Cam?
Yep.
Yeah, PJ Walker, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield. There's probably another bad one in there who I'm not remembering. Who is it?
So you got a couple other bad ones in there. You have Taylor Heineke.
Hey.
You have Garrett Gilbert. You got Teddy Bridgewater.
Hey, do not disrespect the good name of SMU legend Garrett Gilbert.
I'm looking at a picture of him right now. There's nothing legendary about that. I am sorry.
Does he have the sick long flow out the back of the helmet at this point?
No.
No, he's really not. I mean, he was on the Patriots practice squad this past year, so I saw a lot of Garrett Gilbert.
I'm sorry. You also have
no one wants that in their life.
You also have Will Greer. You already said PJ Walker, Sam Darnold, Baker, and then Jacob Eason also was on that list.
Oh yeah,
he's still there, right?
Yeah, I think he's like one of the only quarterbacks technically on the roster right now.
I think he's a practice squad quarterback, and the only rostered one is Matt Corral from Ole Miss.
Yeah,
there you go.
That's awesome. Yay! But they're about to get a quarterback, so good for y'all. Thanks, guys. Thanks for that, by the way. Thank you for DJ Moore.
Anything else you'd want to throw on DJ Moore there, Khari, before we move on to some free agency talk?
Basically, so I got to watch DJ Moore up close for 2 joint practices against the Patriots last year. And first of all, the Patriots cornerbacks are small, so that's probably part of the reason. But even compared to other guys that were out there, I'm surprised. I'm surprised that he's only 6 foot, 215 pounds or whatever it is. Because I swear, when you watched him play, he looked like he was 6'2", 6'3", 225. The way that he plays big, he plays strong. He looks like a man out there for sure.
I mean, and it is theoretically possible the male body doesn't stop growing until the age of 25, bone wise. It is possible he grew a little bit. So maybe he is 6'2". You never know.
I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, it's mainly just an observation. He's boxing people out for touchdown passes. He mossed a couple of people. I mean, he's just a straight up playmaker. And again, he's out there catching passes from Darnold and Mayfield, who are both horrible, by the way. Good God, they sucked. But again, it's just you throw the ball in the general direction of DJ Moore, and he's just making a play on it. That's just what he does.
My favorite World War II general direction.
Well done.
Well, and I was watching a couple of those really highlights that were being put out today, right? Last couple of days by the Bears. And you're right, Khari. I mean, he just plays bigger than he is. He's mossing these guys that he has no right mossing. It's kind of crazy. And you also saw kind of the growth of his game, as a rookie. He did a lot of end arounds. He did a lot of those gadgety plays. And then all of a sudden they were like, oh, wait, we have a real receiver. Let's actually throw him the ball downfield.
And then you go watch the game of him playing, the Broncos, where he's lining up almost exclusively against Patrick Surtain II. And he is just eating his lunch.
He's abusing him all game, even when he wasn't getting the ball.
Yeah.
Even when he wasn't getting the ball, he was still taking them.
Yeah, just giving him the business. That's what it really was.
And so that was the most probably important free agency ad, really, that the Bears had. But there were a couple of free agency things that did occur. Some that we love, some that we hate. We're going to basically do a sentence or two on each of these just to give you an idea. So, Khari, your brother from another mother and also entirely different last name, Blasting Game, got re-signed, and Patrick Scales. What is that? Does this do anything for the Bears?
No. I mean, it's special teams and a fullback. Yay. Occasionally, we want to line it up in the eye and run it with Khari Blossom Game. Good job. That's about it for me.
Khari Blossom Game had his purpose. He was a good blocker last year coming out of the backfield. He actually did his job well. It's just his job is very limited.
Yes. Though, I mean, I've heard people say that they should throw him the football a little bit more, which, I don't know, maybe.
I did feel that. I mean, I'm not saying that as someone who consistently put a unit on him to catch a pass and a touchdown score almost every other game, and it never happened. So yeah, that's definitely not me trying to speak that into existence or anything. But I mean, when you saw him do it, he's done it before. It's just for some reason the Bears never wanted to just leak him in the flat. I don't understand why.
Maybe that's in offense 202 this year to use a Matt Nagyism.
Oh God, you're gonna scar.
Can we stop? Can we please stop?
Well, anyway, moving past, we can just skip Patrick Scales. Great, your long snapper is going to be the same. That's cool. More air guitar after a sweet field goal. One of the most important free agent updates: Sam Mustipher is a free agent officially. I think that's pretty exciting.
I think we need to stop bringing him up because he's going to find a way onto this roster at this rate.
And then his dad's going to come on and keep on trashing Justin. He'll probably trash Justin Fields no matter what.
And then they're going to sign PJ to the practice squad. just so we can have all the Mustafers in Chicago.
No.
Oh God, hush! You hush now. But the transition to people that they were actually signed. Why don't we just start right with this comment here? Isn't that what the new running back they signed was signed to do? Right. So that's going to be Travis Homer, running back previously of Seattle, 2-year, $4.5 million deal. Coming in mainly a special teams guy, but he's athletic. I mean, you've got his profile; he fits that Poles mold. So, Danny, what do we expect out of Travis Homer?
Kind of exactly what you alluded to. A lot of special team stuff, maybe some work on the third down or like in spell running back, because I think they're going to take a very committee heavy approach. He's got juice. He's relatively he's not small by any stretch. I almost think of his signing kind of like Benny Cunningham a few seasons ago, where he was kind of brought in to be, don't screw this up and play special teams. And he'll be here probably past his contract if he performs well. He's not going to cost a lot ever because he's never going to do a lot on offense. He's going to be there for spell work and to kind of be offensive DeAndre Houston Carson, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, that's fair. And I mean, I remember when he came into the league, his rookie year, actually, that was the year when the Seahawks lost like every running back they had to IR, and they signed Marshawn Lynch, who was like 260 pounds or whatever by that point. And he's just like, okay, fine. But Travis Homer was RB1 at that point because, again, literally they had no one else. Again, nothing spectacular out of that, but I mean, he's a guy who will give him the ball, run hard. He will pass protect. He'll catch the ball when you throw it to him. He'll just, like you said, not screw it up if you put him on the field generally. And then, yeah, I think that's one thing where people will get upset. Like, why are you even telling me about this signing? Who cares about it at all? Wake me up when we sign somebody decent. It's like, not every person that's going to be on your 53-man roster is going to be a superstar. Guys got to play special teams. Guys got to play roles. Travis Homer plays a role and will play a role on this team, and I think he'll play it well. And you'll draft a rookie, I'm sure, because I don't know that too many of the other running backs on last year's team are going to really be around. You're going to draft a rookie, and Homer will probably eventually be like RB3 behind them and Khalil Herbert.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he even said today during his press conference, why would you not want to play special teams? How much fun he has doing it, and that he loves pass protecting. That's literally what the whole in Khalil Herbert's game is the fact that he cannot.
You know what that is?
So that's really
a coach's pet. That's what that is.
And that's why he's going to probably keep getting contracts.
Yes, I mean exactly, because that's the thing. Like at a certain point, special teams, it's like when it's time to pass protect, like great, that means I get to be on the field.
I get to do something.
That's when I get to play. No, that was me. Like at the end of my high school career, I'm getting recruited to college. I'm getting recruited to play receiver or whatever. But I knew damn well that I was going to be playing special teams. That was going to be my role. So it's like, kickoff return, let's go. I am in.
All right, rolling on. Another comment that's going to lead us to our next person from Jerome Munoz. I'm sorry if I butcher your name.
Munoz. Anyway. Jeremy
All right.
Munoz.
All right, Peanut Gallery. So I don't know everyone's perfect inflection. They just released Trevor Siemian. Why did they do that? Because they signed PJ Walker. 2-year, $5 million deal, $1 million signing bonus. I personally believe this is awesome just because he's just going to fit the nice backup for Justin, right? I mean, if Justin does have to go down, if something happens, COVID's still a thing, all these various things, you have someone that you can still run the structure of your offense and not have Trevor Siemian stumbling around. Trevor did his job. He helped the Bears get that first-round pick. I salute you, sir, but we do not need you anymore.
Yeah, and he knows how to chuck it deep to DJ Moore. We know that.
That he does.
You know that.
I mean, you think that would make a nice landing spot? I mean, just someone in the building that he knows and is a friend. That's kind of cool for DJ.
And just this. I know it's so easy to just say, "We'll get an athletic quarterback to plug behind Justin." Like you can have athletic quarterbacks who have no idea how to actually use their capabilities. They just are fast. DJ Shockley years ago from Georgia comes to mind. He was just kind of an athlete who never played in the NFL, but with what Fields does and the growth that PJ showed over the last couple of years in Carolina, it's worth having a backup that has not obviously the traits Justin does, but traits in a similar vein. where when he goes down, it's not like, all right, well, we're going to go from this offense that's going to throw things deep and have some RPOs and quarterback powers and stuff. And here's Trevor Siemian, who is going to operate in 5 to 7 yards and throw the ball within 2 seconds of getting it.
Yeah, and you know what? That's the thing that maddens me about a couple of things. First of all, the fact that Justin Fields' first year in the NFL was spent with like, oh yeah, Justin Fields, this is eventually going to be your team. Oh, but by the way, we want you to play like Andy Dalton because that's what this offense is designed around. And to an extent, I mean, maybe you learn more about, okay, let me figure out how to play the quarterback position in this way, even though that's not necessarily my skill set. And maybe you learn some things from that. But that's frustrating to kind of think about. You want the offense, and the people that play after you to have it be cohesive. Like when the Ravens are going from Lamar Jackson to Tyler Huntley. Tyler Huntley's not as good as Lamar Jackson by any stretch of the imagination, but you don't necessarily have to change the offense, which, just side note, is a funny thing about people will be like, oh yeah, you know what? The Patriots should draft a quarterback this year, like in the late rounds, which they should to keep on developing. But they'll be like, yeah, let's like Dorian Thompson-Robinson. That'll be great just because he was at the Shrine Bowl with the Patriots. And it's like, yeah, I don't really think that's what we're talking about here. Like,
I would think something like Aiden O'Connell would be my guess, but that's me.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, draft that kind of guy. Actually, as a matter of fact, I feel like Aiden O'Connell, like I have selected him for mock drafts for the Patriots before. But yeah, like love Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the fact that he's a skinny dude who could throw the ball like 65 miles an hour. But
yeah, he's like 68 years old in college still.
That was like JT Barrett years ago at Ohio State. JT Barrett's 6 years. He's still starting. He might be. I have no idea.
The rest of these we're going to rapid fire through. I'm going to ask y'all, give me one thing you like, one thing you don't like about the signing. Andrew Billings, defensive tackle, 1 year, $3.5 million, $2.4 million guaranteed, likely playing the one tech in this defense. Danny, what's one thing you like about it, one thing you don't like about it?
I like the fact that it's a run-stopping defensive lineman, and the Bears had a historically bad run defense last year, so you get that. I mean, the thing you don't like about it is he's very limited, and he's not been healthy for the better part of two of the last 3 seasons. And you're not of use to any team when you're on the training table, right?
Best ability is availability. Khari, what about you?
Yeah, big space-eating guy that's going to keep linemen off of your, ultra-fast linebacker and, Tremaine Edmonds and, guys like TJ Edwards as well. That's wonderful. Love that. And again, generally like kind of all-around solid player in a rotational role. Yeah, it would be great to have somebody who could also stay on the field and rush the passer more consistently. And, you're not going to have to, basically you're going to have to draft guys, to fill that role or sign more people because, yeah, Billings great, but he's not it.
We'll keep rolling with you, Khari. So now you mentioned that speedy linebacker, Tremaine Edmonds, 4 year, $72 million deal. That was $50 million guaranteed per source. Largest 4-year contract for an inside linebacker in the NFL. One positive, one negative, because we could spend 30 minutes talking about him. So,
freak athlete, fast, long, really had his best year last year, especially as a coverage guy. Explosive, hits well, and I think can function well in this kind of 4-3 cover 2 style of defense. Would have loved more consistency from him. And I also think, and this is almost like kind of tangential, but the discussion around the contract and the signing is just like, okay, I need to take a break from this because we don't know if he's going to be the Mike or Will because they haven't practiced yet. I'm not concerned about it. Could we please, God, stop melting down over it? That's my feeling.
Thank you.
Christ.
Sure.
Like get good players, plug them in. And also flexibility, whatever. Danny, you, one good thing, one bad thing, or concern, I guess.
One good thing, the youth, and he should be on the proverbial upswing. I don't believe he's yet 25. He will be going into the season, but he is very, very young. He was a football infant coming into the NFL, and I believe he came into this. I think his big brother Terrell Edmonds was a first-round pick that year as well, if memory served.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, he was like in the 20s.
Yeah, by Pittsburgh, I want to say.
Yep.
But
Still there.
Well, good for him. Lasting in the league. But that's the real big thing. The thing that scares me, I don't really care about the deal. It's not the money that's ever going to worry me. I'm always wary of guys who are great coming off of the contract year, so to speak. And he was more bordering on bust territory prior to the 22 season than he was, I'm an $18 million a year linebacker. And I always kind of worry about that. And then we were kind of discussing it, and Quentin Krischko, Butkus Stats, pointed out that his PFF grades went nosediving when Von Miller was not in the lineup. So it doesn't mean that because it's that, but it's very weird that when the Hall of Fame edge defender is no longer wreaking havoc, that the linebacker is then struggling. It's just
continues to
my
show
2 cents.
that it continues to show that any football team and any side of the ball, everything feeds off each other. We always talk about the D line needs to be dominant so linebackers can flow, but at the same time, right, the back end has to be solid so that the D line can get after the quarterback. It just shows you just need consistency on all fronts. One thing I'd want to bring up on Edmonds is that, it is interesting because his 0.6 yards per coverage snap allowed last season was the third best among linebackers, and that his 39% run stop win rate was 9th best. And like you said, it was a great season, but if you go the season before that wasn't there. So what is it just all of a sudden he went from infant toddler or NFL toddler all of a sudden to, NFL teenager, and now he's still growing, or was this like a blip? So we'll have to see.
Hey,
a couple of guys.
Maybe his prefrontal cortex just needed to mature a little bit more.
Oh, Jesus.
That could be no reality. Just saying. We got Nate Davis, guard, 3-year deal, $30 million with 19.25 guaranteed. He actually played for current Bear assistant O-line coach Luke Steckel in Tennessee. He's only 26 years old and started 54 games for the Titans. Danny, good, bad?
I think it's a real good signing overall. I mean, he obviously has familiarity with Steckel, younger. I guess the negative would be the questions it causes along the line, because you're effectively then pushing Tevin Jenkins to a new position after he was just getting comfortable at right guard while recovering from back surgeries, while recovering from a multitude of other injuries. And now you're asking him to potentially get kicked back out to right tackle or moved over to left guard, because Nate Davis has literally not taken a snap at not right guard in the NFL. That's what his position is. He is a
3,706 at right and 0 at left.
So there you go. I think it's a good signing. I think it's at market value. Like, that's kind of what playable starting guards go for, is that $10 to $12 million range now. It's hard to get mad at the signing. It just creates other problems and questions on the line, because now you're going to start getting into this thing of you're playing lineman musical chairs of who's playing where and whatnot.
Khari, good, bad?
It's like they always say, best, starting 5, put them out there, except that there's got to be an optimal mix of what that best starting 5 is and what everybody's best at. When I watch him play, I like him. I think he's solid. I think that he moves well and fits the offense from that standpoint. Solid in pass pro. There were a couple of reps where I'm just like, ooh, that wasn't even really that good of a move. I don't want to see you getting beat by that. But those were kind of like blips on the radar screen. And by and large, he, is pretty solid. So, I think this is one of those kind of underrated, very solid signings, and it helps the interior of your offensive line, which I think is probably the most important part of the offensive line for Justin Fields and for really most quarterbacks. If we're going to be honest, the lack of positional versatility. That's my thing. It's not that he can't. See, the thing is, we don't know that he can't play left guard. And that he mentioned, like, oh, yeah, I played some left guard back in college or whatever. But I'm kind of like, oh, okay. It's been a while since you were there. So, I would – if I'm going to pick where I would rather somebody be comfortable, if you're going to keep Tevin Jenkins, keep him at right guard and make Nate Davis play the left, or see if he can do that. If you're ambivalent on Tevin Jenkins, then – I guess you go ahead and trade him and put Nate Davis at right guard. But if I'm going to be honest, I'd rather not have to open that can of worms right now.
For those who care, number 15 Princeton just beat number 2 Arizona in the March Madness.
That's amazing.
Just after Furman beat Who was it? Virginia.
Virginia. And
I would guess
I picked both of those upsets.
I was going to say, I bet we're down to like 0.8% of all brackets being
I'm going to fill
perfect.
one out this year.
I did 2 for my wife's job, and she's like, "Do you want to fill these out as just like a whatever?" I was like, "Sure."
Keeping it now back to the NFL, we got 2 more to run through real quick. DeMarcus Walker, defensive lineman, mainly played a little more on the outside, but can kick inside. $21 million, 3-year deal, $16 million guaranteed. As I said, about 3/4 quarters of his snaps were at D end, while 1/4 was at D tackle. Khari, good, bad.
Like the positional versatility, the opposite of the Nate Davis, the fact that he can play inside and out. I know people talk about him. Yeah, he's a defensive end, run-stopping defensive end. I feel like I like him more almost inside as a rotational 3 tech. I feel like the way that he plays, the quickness that he has, and the fact that he doesn't really have, at least from what I can see, like very well-defined pass rush moves. I feel like he works best inside where he could just use his quickness because, he's got good get-off, he's got good side-to-side agility, swipe moves, get past a, guard or center. And again, I would say that the downside is there isn't yet a whole lot of variety to his game. He kind of is based off of, quick hands, violent hands, and motor, but the refinement needs some work. And I think if he had that, he'd be a little bit more productive, especially pass rushing.
Danny.
I actually would kind of like piggyback on what Khari is saying. I really like the production he had in limited snaps. He only got, I want to say, 30 or so percent of the snaps in that Titans defense. 37, I think, was the number I saw. I could be off on that. I'm going purely off memory.
Yeah, I think it was 37%. And good limited, production. Limited.
So 7 sacks and 37%. I mean, it's not to say like, oh, if he plays 80% of snaps, he's going to get 14 sacks. That's not what that's saying. He might have just been playing cleanup for all we know. But the production is there. The pressure rate was there. And kind of like what Khari said is the versatility of, I think they're going to be targeting a lot more of these versatile, almost replacement level, good, not great linemen on defense because they don't have anyone that's special. You're going to see them almost probably churning out, like, obviously not what the Eagles are because the Eagles had just so many great bodies that they could just throw at you. But like maybe some version of that, or the Bears iteration where it's like, here is 8 average defensive linemen. Here they come. And just so you always have competency running through,
your job.
Yeah, God, Thibodeau is in my brain now.
Well, and that aligns in theory to an extent with Fluce's system, whether you're talking about hits, whether you're talking about M&M, right, mean and motor, like all these different things he has. The systems exist like they do, and they've existed as long as they have for a reason, is because to an extent, at least, they work. And one of the reasons they work is because you get a lot out of a little, right? You don't need need these blue chip guys all over the field. You can get a lot more out of potentially, like you're saying, hey, we're just going to keep rolling guys at you over and over again and see which one it gets hot that game. And then we'll roll with that one for, a prolonged period. And then we'll rotate it in the next game. So who knows? Lastly, former Eagle linebacker TJ Edwards, who was the very first signing that wasn't already a Bear, inked a 3-year deal, $19.5 million, $12 million guaranteed. In 2022, he had 159 tackles, 2 sacks, 7 pass deflections, 10 tackles for loss, and was a top-graded linebacker according to PFF with an 84.8 grade. He was an undrafted free agent who really they kept trying to replace, and as they did that, they just could never do it because he just kept playing well. Danny, good thing, bad thing?
The good thing is I actually think he's also ascending right now. He's, 27, I believe, going on 28, so he should be, in theory, entering the area of his career where the physical prime meets the mental prime, of where his abilities are going to be meeting at the apex, as it were, to make him the best player he's been. Now, obviously, we need to see where the defensive line fills out because you're only going to have so much that you can do as a linebacker if giant men are in your way as you're trying to make plays. But it's hard not to like. He's probably, to this moment, my favorite free agent signing they've made, and he's also the first one they made. As Mason, you said, you don't know which one is playing which yet, if Edmonds is Mike or Will, or flip-flop it with Edwards. But I just think that they made probably the best signing that they could have for this defense in terms of like the headiness, the production, the steady incremental improvement over his career. Like you said, they kept trying to get rid of him, and they just couldn't. I guess the downside, he's just not athletic. He's moxie and intelligence and film study, and I guess the cherry on top for him overall is he grew up a Bears meatball. Like he stood in line and stuff. Like and that endears himself to people like us because what are we? We're fans, and we all been there where it's like I want to meet Lance Briggs. Who doesn't?
Khari, anything to add?
I basically just found myself thinking, yeah, so he's Black Sanborn, is what you're saying.
I think he might be a little more athletic.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's interesting though because both of them came into the league. They went to the same school and then they come into the league undrafted, and they're kind of showing people like, yeah, athleticism is nice, but when you're playing linebacker, especially off-ball linebacker, sometimes it's more important for you to just be smart, get where you're going, and know how to get there and finish when you do. I think that just having another just savvy, smart linebacker with experience that has been productive for a long time in the NFL is just something that team just did not have last year. You're out there trying to go roll with like Nick Morrow, right? And it's like nothing against him, but he's not the player that really any of those guys, either the guys that just signed or like even Jack Sanborn are. So I feel so much better about this linebacking crew than I did before. I think the only thing I would say negatively is like the athleticism part kind of limits what you can do with him scheme wise, which again goes back to the whole, is he the Mike? Is he the Will? And if it looks like he doesn't have the sideline to sideline enough to clean things up as a Will, then I feel like you're going to have to reevaluate that. But again, maybe him just being smart, knowing where the football is going. I've seen linebackers like, I'm not saying he's on this level, but a guy like Dante Hightower who just straight up, when the ball is snapped, he knows where the ball's going. You could see the reaction before everybody else. Like guys are still like kind of taking their steps and figuring it out. And he's like, no, I'm going now. That can also mitigate the lack of athleticism. So we'll see how it turns out.
I mean, so kind of before we move on, the only thing I keep thinking of, which I'm not saying we don't know where they're going to line them up. My intuition would say just because of the linebackers of a couple years back when he was in Indy as the coach, Anthony Walker is very much the same thing. Not great athlete, short, little arms, and he was the Mike, whereas Shaq Leonard was the Will. And if you look at the body types and everything, that just seems like what they're going for. And it's just like maybe they're trying it the other way because they feel like maybe they owe it to the big money acquisition to play to be the signal caller, as it were, and the middle linebacker. But I don't know, because even then, TJ Edwards was the green dot on the Philly defense last year. So
yeah, I mean, in the end, it gives you two guys that you can trust, right? Either one of them could be the green dot. Either one of them can probably play either position in a pinch. So in the end, I feel like it can't be bad. We'll see how it turns out. But I mean, these guys are going to be hopefully be fine wherever you put them. It's just a matter of finding out where they play best.
It was funny because when Edwards was signed, Jack Sanborn tweeted out just 3 badger emojis, just probably excited that his buddy was coming. And then imagine being Sanborn sitting there, and then you see the Edmonds news trickle over, whether it's a phone call or a tweet, and you're just like, well, damn, I just lost my main job.
Well, he'll still be a starter.
Great, yeah, you're the Sam. The Sam barely plays.
As of right now, he's a starter. But hey, they could draft a guy. I think they will draft a guy.
Is there okay? First, this made me think. Did y'all watch the remake of The Longest Yard?
Yes.
Yeah, with Adam Sandler and
yeah. So when like all the terrible people are there, and then all of a sudden like all the black dudes come, and then Brucey's sitting there, and it's like there goes my playing time.
Yeah,
that's like pretty much what happened to Sanborn.
That's Jack Sanborn.
He's Brucey, just like, dang it, I was here first. There's one question I do want to highlight here because I know that none of us, spoiler alert, drafted a cornerback at 9, so we're not going to specifically talk about this. Is there a chance that the Bears go cornerback at 9?
Sure. Why not?
Yeah, there's a chance. I don't think it's a high one personally, but there's a chance.
If his name is Devin Witherspoon, then yes.
See, I would say if his name is Christian Gonzalez, I'd say yes.
Also true, because
I just don't think he's getting past the lines.
Yeah, probably not. But he was the first corner tape I threw on this year, and I was just like, well, that's a high bar. Oops a daisy.
Yeah. Yes.
And before we move on to a quick go over the Pulse presser stuff, is there a world that exists where you have the two guys, Edwards and Edmonds, and there's a bit of an interchangeability between them where
Sure.
they float in and out of those two positions because they have the ability simply to.
That's what I just said. Yeah, I think
right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, like why nail them down?
Point in like any sport where you almost want your 4 or 3 linemen to kind of all do the same thing and be able to just like kind of move them around to create matchup problems. It's like, I don't know how far along we are in the NFL defensive world of like a team just going to a bunch of guys full of just Derwin Jameses, like just these guys that are 6'3", 240 and can do whatever. It's like, I don't think any team's ever going to do that because someone's just going to pick on you and be a bully. But it's like what the Raptors are the NBA equivalent of it, right? Where they're just rolling out a bunch of 6'8" dudes, and it's like, all right, see what we can do.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go over the Pulse press conference really quick. We do got to get to this mock draft, which is the meat and potatoes of this. So basically, I'm going to give one of you a quote from Ryan Poles, and you're going to react. Like, what do you think about that quote? The other person, you don't get to talk. I'm sorry, you get the next quote. So let's go with Khari regarding why there's really not a lot of movement on the offensive line and defensive line. I think you can get in trouble if you go heavy with a big lead and you fire away there and you let really good players walk away because you're too stuck on where you need to get players. Edmonds and Edwards are really good and at the top of their position. Reaction.
I mean, ultimately, I agree with that. At the same, like, I'm not going to sit up here in front and say that I, don't want to see them sign an offensive tackle or another guard because I do. I feel like what he's done both with the offensive line and defensive line, Connor Orr kind of mentioned it best that, he knew that the values were going to go crazy on those positions, and they really have. Guys are getting paid crazy money. And then if you're not going to do that, if you want to be patient on that and just find good players, then you need to find the good players where they are. And then that means that once you get your offensive linemen and defensive linemen, well, then the rest is ready-made. And you got playmakers ready to go. So I get it. And I personally feel like that is a solid way to do it. You just can't not take care of the other stuff eventually.
All right, Danny, for you, Ryan Poles and the new addition of Nate Davis. We're going to put the best front 5 out there.
I think that's a really interesting quote because it leads me to believe that A, they're not done signing people, and B, that they're probably not done drafting people. Like this isn't a very incomplete product.
Mm-hmm.
The only 2 that I think can pencil in for anything is Nate Jones and Braxton Jones.
You mean
or Nate Davis and Braxton Jones.
Just changing the man's name, damn.
I had Braxton Jones on the brain already. Nate Davis and Braxton Jones.
That's true.
I don't know that Cody Whitehair is going to be here post June 1st because all it takes is a John Michael Schmitz or Luke Whippler getting drafted and goodbye Whitehair because it sounded like they might try him at center and his left guard days might be over. That means you're pushing Jenkins over to the left side, and we don't know that he can do that, and we don't know that he's healthy. Like, it's just there's so many question marks about him and that his health. Does he fit in at Hallis Hall based on what we heard coming out of there last year? Do they even like him? Like, he's not their player. They inherited him. Yes, he was their best line last year. That's also being, like, the smartest kid in summer school. Like, it doesn't make him good or smart. It just makes him there. Like, so I think there's going to be someone drafted. I think they might sign someone else. I don't know if it's going to be a guard or a tackle. You got to keep in mind that Clay Harbor tweet of they would like to pair Edwards and Siamalu as former teammates together in Chicago. Maybe that's a way to go. You fix that interior all of a sudden with Siamalu and Nate Davis Nate at right guard, and all of a sudden you might be, as Roquan Smith used to say, cooking with grease on the interior. Especially because Braxton got better as the year went along. Like every 4 games, You saw complete improvement from Braxton Jones.
Yes. Also, yes, Ian Cunningham, do your thing. This is why you are here. Bring us all the former Eagles.
Seriously, we'll take them all at this rate.
Yes,
Khari,
last one of them.
Next quote: Ryan Poles and Tremaine Edmonds. He's special, long, and fits the scheme.
Sure.
He's not. He's wrong. He's correct, right? I mean, he's got some special skills. He is a gigantic dude, and he, I think, would fit this in terms of his ability to move and his length, right?
I mean, yeah, I think that's kind of a no-brainer to me. I feel like it's just a matter of they signed him to a contract that suggests that he could be one of the best linebackers in the game. Y'all, I hope y'all are right. That's all I got to say. I mean, because it seems like they're like, in our system, the way that we coach it, the way we put him in a position to succeed, he'll be awesome. So make him awesome then.
Danny, wrap us up. Speaking of scheme, Orlando Brown was brought up in the press conference specifically, and Ryan Poles said, I'm not going to talk about specific players, but scheme is important.
I mean, I think that we all kind of know that, and he clearly has a type, tall, athletic, and wingspan, right? So he filled 2/3 of them, and in this case, he wasn't meatloaf. 2 out of 3 wasn't bad. It was terrible. So I mean, would I have personally given him a look? Yeah, probably, because I think he's a solid, if not unspectacular, left tackle. But he clearly was dead set on staying there. They didn't want to move. He didn't have any interest in flipping sides. So that clearly I was wrong on that thought process, and that's okay. I'm going to be wrong a lot, whether it be on Bears thoughts, football thoughts, or in my personal life. It's just the nature of it. But I think that that's a very telling one, and especially when you're looking at potential guys they could even sign or guys that they could draft. Like, I'm curious, like the case study where for the team Khari covers in Isaiah Wynn, because he's got long arms and he's a good athlete, but he's like 6'2".
Yeah.
So it just makes me wonder, would he be on their radar?
Yeah, and that just goes to show when you're looking at mock drafts, when you're looking at the rest of these free agency, just like Danny said, you have to factor scheme into that. If it's someone
don't mock DeJuan Jones to the Bears. It's not happening.
Yeah, I did that for funsies last week, and I said it literally from the get-go. I was like, I hate this. I did this. I'm regretting that I did this, but this is what I picked. And then I moved on with my life. I'm never doing that again. But we're going to take a quick break here, and then we're going to get into our mocks that we keep talking about. All right, so we got mock draft 4.0. Danny and I have done essentially 4 of these, and of course now we're lucky enough that Khari's going to throw his 2 cents into in terms of what he would do if he was the Bears GM. Keep in mind, Danny and I cannot repeat players, so one of your favorite picks might be sitting there, and we have to ignore them. This is an exercise in trying to get as much information out to y'all as possible about players you may not have heard of, not just creating the same mock over and over and over again and shoving that in your face, because what is the point of that?
The strong side eye of Khari's face on that photo is fantastic.
So I ended up going first in this alternately because I'm sitting there, and this is how I do these every time. I do a bunch of practice mocks, just messing around for funsies, and then I get there and I say, this is the mock. I'm sitting down, I hit go, this is it. I don't care what trades are available, even if I think it's realistic or not, whatever, I'm doing this. So the first 2 rounds I always have it on slow. I'm sitting there, pick 1 goes by, I think it was Stroud, pick 2 goes by was Young, pick 3 goes by, the Cardinals took Tyree Wilson. Pick 4 goes by, pick 5 goes by, which I think was Jalen Carter to the Seahawks. Obviously, that's a whole thing now. We can dive into that at some other time. I don't want to talk about Jalen Carter today. 6 and then 7, and I said, you know what? I'm going to make a trade. So I sent my 9th pick and moved up 2 spots. I sent pick 133, round 4. Honestly, the mock was saying it was too much I was giving up. So you can see that on the grade there. I have a hard time believing I could give up too much less to move up the 2 spots. Honestly, I thought that was probably too little. 2 cares, whatever. That's what I gave up. And I went and I got my guy, Will Anderson.
Oh, you finally stopped saving him.
Here's the thing. I was saving him for so damn long, and then they moved back to 9. And I'm like, this is it. This is the only time I'm gonna be able to take him anymore. And again, do I think it's the most likely thing to happen? No, I don't. But that's how the board felt. Like 4 quarterbacks went early. You had Jalen Carter go early. Cardinals fell in love with Tyree Wilson's wingspan he had standing there at the combine. Like, he failed to pick 7. I'm going to take him, right? So there's not a lot I'm going to say on him. If he's sitting there at 7, you'd be stupid not to. 6'3", 253 pounds, ran a 4.6 at the combine. He went with the linebackers, which I think was just his way of saying, like, look how awesome I am. I can run with these linebackers, even though I'm an edge. His freshman year, he had 52 tackles and 7 sacks, which is wild, right? And he won the Bronco Nagurski Trophy as the nation's top defender. He led the FBS with 34.5 tackles, 17.5 sacks. I mean, his get-off juice to attack the corner is wild. Athleticism, closing burst to hunt on the quarterbacks when the play extends. Amazing lateral fluidity, body control, efficiency, and change of direction, top-notch. Every once in a while, his motor ramps down as the play extends. He needs to work on his hip tightness. Like, that's something he needs to get into physical therapy office or something, because his hips are wildly tight, in my opinion. He needs intention, a little higher rushing the passer. Then he puts more intention on rushing the passer than he does stopping the run. Like, that's just something that I think he's going to grow into more. To me, he's DeMarcus Ware Jr. And if he's sitting there somehow at 7, obviously, yes, you should go get him.
You said get off juice. Let the record show.
Pause.
The best get off juice. John, as I said, they got Jalen Carter, the Seahawks. Just who knows what's happening there, but whatever. It happens. Any thoughts before we move on to the next pick?
You summed up the probable best player in the draft pretty well.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of obvious.
If that happened, holy crap.
Oh my God, right? But so Danny also decided to do a trade. Talk us through this trade, Danny. Not the player, just the thought process on the trade.
The thought process was the way the board fell. I don't remember the exact one off the top of my head. I didn't write it down. I didn't go and take a screenshot of it because I don't care enough to do it. I was just like, oh, let's go explore the trades. It was down to 11. And it was like, I don't really want to move down only 2 spots. I want to make it worth my while and see if maybe the board falls away. I could kind of justify and go from there. I was like, all right, well, who's next? Steelers were the next one up. I'm like, okay, what's a realistic trade I could make? So I was like 17-49 to get back into the top half of round 2 again. And then a mid-4th seems reasonable. It ended up being an 84%. I could have gone for more because you realize once this thing gets 52%, they're not saying no. They're just going to be like, oh, yeah, cool, that's fine. But I was just like, I don't want to just take them for a ride because it defeats the purpose of it. And I was like, okay, number 9 for a 4 and a 2 and moving back 8 spots. Sure, why not? Let's see how it goes. And this happened.
It did. But he moved so far back that he doesn't get to go again for a little bit. Because Khari didn't do that. Khari did a trade and ended up getting...
Oh, you're a jerk.
This man.
I mean, not a whole lot of notes needed on this one. That is your potential left tackle of the future. In this particular case, maybe you are putting him on the right side, which he does have experience playing on the right side. He played right guard before moving to left tackle. So you could put him at right tackle if you wanted to, or you could slide Braxton Jones over to the left side. I mean, there are a number of ways that you could do this, but I think his upside is incredible. His arms are incredibly long. He's fluid. He has, I think, very nice patience and technique.
Oh, he's so patient.
And I mean, I just, when I'm watching him, I was just like, oh yeah, no, this guy's gonna be good. You just go ahead and get him a little bit more strength and just a little bit more coaching at the pro level, and you could absolutely see this guy being an all-pro one day. So to me, that's a no-brainer. It wasn't quite a no-brainer because my favorite receiver was on the board, and I didn't take him. I really wanted to, but this is arguably the more important thing to do, given where the Bears are right now and the fact that they have a really stacked receiving core as it is right now. In another iteration, maybe I will take Jackson Smith and Jigba, though.
I wouldn't blame me if you did. Now Danny gets to go since he traded so far back to pick 17.
Oh, and I'm gonna upset everybody. Bijan. Okay. Well, now that everyone can get mad at me, Khari has left the building. He's done with me. So, in my humble, dumb opinion, Bijan's a top 4 or 5 prospect in his entire draft. He's just depressed down due to positional value, which is a thing. We already got a shake in my head. Perfect.
G7 is shaking his head at Danny's pick.
And you know what, G Station? I don't give a damn because this isn't your draft. This is my draft. It's undeniable. He can catch the ball. He's a wheel route nightmare out of the backfield. He's probably the most well-rounded running back prospect we've had since Saquon Barkley. And Barkley went number 2 overall because Dave Gettleman is real smart. There's not much he can't do. The thing he really lacks is like the same thing I said about Zeke when he was drafted at 7 coming out of Ohio State. He's fast. He's not holy shit fast, but everything else he can do well. He challenges on blocks. He catches the ball. He runs hard. He's got good feet. He's agile. He's strong. He finishes runs. He's in the embodiment of a perfect modern day running back, just isn't super fast. At 17, I know it would upset people, but I think it's a reasonable place to go if you just want to say, hey, give me the best damn football player who's going to help this team right now.
Well, and I agree with that, Danny. One thing that's interesting, John says Gibbs is a better fit for us. What my response to that is able to get. Do you know you're going to be able to get Gibbs? Is that a guarantee? Because you're not taking Gibbs at 17, where you traded back to. So, if you are dead set on improving your running back room and this is where you're at, you go get a dude. I wouldn't have taken him here, but, power to you.
And again, I'm not saying this is what I would do. It was just an option because I had already taken my other options before. Like I can't just keep taking the same guys as much as against the rules. Yes.
My only note on this is I appreciate you going out on the limb. I will say that the longer I had time to think about it, the more I was like, that would be a terrible bit of process. At the same time, I can't even say that I hate it as much as I first did when I saw it. And I was just like, you got to be kidding me. Because, here's the thing. Look at what they've been talking about, right? Like, get the players when they're available. If you were at 17, I would just as soon draft like Zay Flowers or something, more important position. But Bijan is a way better player than Zay Flowers and probably a way better player than anybody else at that range.
And that's what it was. I was looking at everything else, and it was the literal guy you said you wouldn't draft, and that was DeJuan Jones. I was just literally staring at DeJuan like I can justify it. He's a right tackle, and he's really good.
But he doesn't belong in Chicago. Right.
And that's the thing. You can make the argument that he doesn't quote unquote belong in Chicago, but he's like I said, I think he's going to finish as the 4th best player in my rankings in the entire draft.
Here's the thing: Bijan would belong anywhere. Like, let's be real.
Yes, he doesn't have a place where he can't go and just be like, all right, cool, here I am.
Can we take a second though and put the meatball hat on and just imagine the backfield of Justin Fields with Bijan, with Khalil Herbert, and just the rushing attack that would provide?
Everybody wanted Saquon, right? Or not everybody, I shouldn't say, but people were like, oh yeah, you should go ahead and franchise Saquon. Well, you could go ahead and essentially draft him this year if you wanted to. I honestly, there's a part of me, there is a 1% part of me that wants something like that to happen so that our friends can absolutely melt down.
Oh my God.
Just absolutely lose their damn minds.
Because I'm a chaos agent. I love it. I laugh.
And you also have to understand, for the people flaming me right now in our comment section, good Lord, I am the running back and linebacker guy. I like old positions. It's just my brand. Again, my mock, not yours. Bite me.
I know Marcos is in here freaking out. Like, again, this is our fourth one. Danny
This is
has
what he
taken
wants.
so many people
This
already.
is what Danny wants from you. He
Oh
wants.
my God, calm down. All right, we're moving on. Bijan, get off the screen.
Should have drafted Darnell Wright, Danny.
Jesus.
You dumb son of a bitch.
Danny, hopefully your next pick doesn't piss off Marcos so much. Round 2, pick 49.
Tell Marcos.
This guy's been drafted, by the way, 3 times already. I drafted him, Q drafted him last week, and now you are.
Okay, so here's the guy I would actually, if you're telling me I had to pick one tackle that isn't going to be in the first round for the Chicago Bears specifically, it's probably Matthew Bergeron. I don't really need to recap him too much. He's 6'5", he's got 33 and 3/4 inch arms, so he meets the length threshold. He's a good athlete. He's clearly still learning the position a little bit, but I don't think it's anything that some coaching can't solve, where you would have then 2 really long athletic tackles on each bookend, and it would make life a lot easier when you're not paying a tackle yet. It might take a year for him to get there. You might see the development in season similar to Braxton Jones, but I like what we've seen from him to this point, especially because he is a really good athlete and he moves around well. He tested well. He moved around well on his tape for Syracuse. I think it's kind of an easy plug and play scenario in terms of this is the type that he looks for. This is the guy.
I don't know what you did, Danny. Like, I don't know if you didn't put out a fire at this guy's apartment or something, but Marcos doesn't like anything that you're doing right now. I love Bergeron. I took him, I think, in the first or second mock. I mean, not just the fact what he does at tackle, but he's got a lot of flexibility. Q did a really good job breakdown on this last episode too, so go check that out. But I mean, he can go tackle, he can go guard. He's young, he's got the mobility skills. He hasn't really tapped into fully what his potential is going to be. I really like him as a prospect.
Yeah, he's picking up some steam that I'm seeing in kind of.
He's climbing boards, and that's why at 49, because I figured you could see him go top 50 now. He was at the back end of 2, early 3, and now he's just slowly climbing up boards.
Indeed.
Okay, Thomas Bell said, "What about the DT from Northwestern?"
Man, I thought he was next. Darn it.
Oh, sorry. I'll leave it for the.
He's coming. Shh.
Shut the hell up.
So before we get there, Khari, you don't get to talk in this segment, by the way, because some reasons that you and I know. You wait your turn. So round 2, pick 54. I went with Joe Tippmann, center. Obviously, main reason is, first of all, look at the hair. That should be a round 1 hairstyle, but he fell to 2, so we'll take it. 6'6", 313 pounds, 2-year starter at Wisconsin. Can play in a variety of run schemes, including zone. Taller center, so but can bend to maintain his leverage most of the time. Pretty fluid blocker that can make some pretty wide pulls and can get to the second level, which is going to be huge. Many have noted he has a high football IQ, communicates really well.
Can I break in? Bears
Yes.
are signing Robert Tonyan.
Oh
boy.
Oh.
Yeah, Shefty just broke it.
Okay.
Lit. Bobby Tonyan, another Chicago area kid. This feels like pandering because we're not signing big names, so let's sign people that we are familiar with from the area.
Right.
That is so interesting. Okay.
He's different. He is different from he's different from Cole. He's a different kind of player. So
he is. I mean, right? They play quite differently. And when he had his big year before his ACL injury, I believe
his ACL exploded.
He was a nice seam threat for Rodgers. So
I'm surprised he's not going to the Jets.
Familiar with the system? But yeah, how is he not on his list?
Excellent point, Joe Treviso, Getsy guy. Yep.
But yeah, that's a good break-in. 1-year deal. It looks like.
Oh boy, here he comes.
Wow, so interesting. All right, thanks for that. And so back to Flow Tree here. So some of the negatives for him is he can get a bit too far forward off a snap and lose balance due to his height. Like I said, he's a little tall. He does have to work extra to stay low. Body control needs a little bit of work and can often lead too much with his head. So he's a solid center. Someone brought up Thomas Bell. The center Schmitz won't get this far. 2 things. A, I already drafted Schmitz in a previous draft. but also B, I mean, people are talking about Schmitz being now like an end of the first round pick. And there's also some people who actually have dropped him because he didn't test as well as they thought he was going to. So he's a very divisive center right now. So
especially for a guy who's supposed to be a zone center, testing as badly as he did.
Yeah. So now that's a really interesting one. I'm not really sure. I am still high on him. I think he still could be really good day one starter for you. But in this world, I took my man Joe here.
My man Joe.
Where'd you go? All right, Khari. Speaking of that Northwestern defensive lineman,
let the record show this is my guy.
Also mine. I got a chance to talk to him. I think he would be an absolutely perfect fit for the Chicago Bears. Just personality-wise, the way that he approaches the game, the way that he goes about his work, and it doesn't hurt that he literally destroyed the combine. Like, I don't even understand how he functions at 280, running a 4.49. What is this? Are you kidding me? And I mean, he's got a track background, which is interesting because he wasn't a sprinter; he was a thrower, and generating power. Through explosive movements. I mean, that's how he gets down. His get off the ball is ridiculous to the point where like the center will be snapping the ball, and I swear like he must like look up or whatever, and it's just like the dude's already on you. Must be like, the hell am I supposed to do with you? And I think that his versatility to be able to play again both inside and out. He to me is a 3 tech. But the possibility of him being an early down defensive end that can stop the run is intriguing as well. Like kind of a souped up version of DeMarcus Walker. Mm-hmm. And again, I think that he kind of hinted to me in our discussion that there's a little bit of untapped potential in terms of, he wanted to go to the combine and show what kind of player that he is, which seemed to suggest to me that he could be used better in the NFL, that maybe his game is a bit more translational to the NFL than it was at Northwestern.
Just to kind of tack on to what you're saying, Khari, it's because they had no one else on that defensive line, really, so to speak. They had to line them up everywhere to try to create the best matchup, as it were. But they just didn't have anyone else, so it's like no matter where you put him, it was easy to kind of like just say, there he is, there's 99.
Yeah, just go stop him.
Just stop him, and you're going to stop the rest of the line. And also worth noting, the athletic genes in that whole family. His brother's a 5-star recruit going to Oklahoma.
Indeed.
Well, and it's crazy to show like how much things like the Senior Bowl and the Combine do, because if you actually go and listen to the Hogan Johns podcast, Hogue talked about being at Northwestern's Pro Day recently and how talking to some of the other scouts that were there and some of the coaches for the Northwestern, they were saying, conversations we were having, this guy was an undrafted free agent all the way up to maybe like a 3rd, 4th round pick. So, that Senior Bowl started that conversation. And then as Khari said, I mean, the Combine just shot him off or shooting him up the boards.
Yeah. I mean,
sure.
I cannot fathom. And I mean, it must have just been like what Danny was talking about. The fact that, he didn't maybe look as impressive from a production standpoint because he was just the guy that you knew you had to stop and nobody else was there. But I mean, I cannot imagine seeing somebody with that kind of skill set being like, yeah, he's a UDFA. Like, come on now. and he even mentioned to me that, I mean, he went up against Pete Skoronski and Rashawn Slater for 4 years in practice. So, I mean, it's like he's seen what NFL linemen are like.
It's an excellent point.
This is kind of cool. We got Jekyll in the chat. A little late and just jumping into your round 1 picks. First, as a Panthers fan, despite losing more, it hurts. I like the trade between the Bears and Panthers and enjoy him because he will crush it with Fields. Thanks for jumping in, spreading the fandom. Appreciate that. Sorry that we took DJ, but hopefully Stroud or Young treats your franchise well, because you guys deserve it.
Not too well in the immediate, because we need a high pick next year. But
in like 2
years. Eventually, I hope that
a couple years. Give it a couple years.
Danny's up now, round 2, pick 54, with this interesting slide.
Andre Carter II from Army. So he projects more, I know, as a 3-4 edge rusher. I saw him there. I've watched a couple games of his. I feel like if you were to put the weight on him, he had like 15 sacks his final year at Army. He's long. He's athletic. Yeah, I know that this iteration of the 43 Tampa 2, whatever you want to call it, that Eberflus is running, likes bigger, bulkier defensive ends. He's not small. He's 250 plus. So you can already see he's got size. He's got a frame where you can fill him out a little more. And he's got length. He's athletic. He can bend the corner. He just needs time because he went from a place in Army that is an FBS independent. They don't really play a ton of great competition. I know they play Notre Dame every year or every other year, whatever it is. But he's purely an upside traits-based pick with the length and athleticism and production he showed at Army to try to work on this year and in the coming seasons. Just as a quick little scouting report on him, the production and everything, it's just kind of like it's hard to ignore when you watch him on that Army team with the rest of them because it's like him and a bunch of guys who are just not as good.
Yeah, just an interesting note here from John. Probably last draftable Army recruit because he got grandfathered into not having to serve. I mean, that's a huge difference there.
Very cool.
Yes. Also, Marcos, Bears not drafting that T-Rex in regards to Peter Skoronsky. A suggestion that the Bears should take Skoronsky.
All right, well, T-Rexes are the ones with the big wings, right?
That's not serious, right? I'm just making sure.
I think we're leaning back to a previous video from
oh God, yeah, the video. Oh no.
Yeah.
I was like, God, no. Khari, please.
I hate you. But I also want to say for those of you who want to nerd out a little bit, you think T-Rex is bad, go look up a Carnotaurus.
Just this is the content they're here for.
Go look at a Carnotaurus's arms. That's the standard by which short-armed offensive tackles, corners, whatever. That's the standard that we should use from now on. Carnotaurus.
Oh, Danny's up again after his trade. So round 2, pick 61.
So Sam Laporta, he was initially a 4th or 5th round tight end, and he went to the combine, and like a lot of other tight ends this year, and like Anthony Richardson did, he effectively tore it up. He went out there, he showed everything you could want to see, the mobility, the speed, size, verticality, everything. Now, he didn't have like a lot of Iowa tight ends. He didn't have like super unbelievable big boy production, but tight ends are probably the 2nd or 3rd hardest transition to the league behind corner and quarterback, depending on where you rank it, because you have to know the whole offense, run blocking and pass blocking and running routes and what you're doing on each given play. But he's someone I would like in the early rounds, but I don't know how likely that is now, seeing as the breaking news we just got. And Bobby Tonyan is a legit, tight end too, but just someone I really liked with how the board fell.
It also kills my Darnell Washington dreams.
Yeah, Darnell was, I think, between the three of us, that was all of us who were like, we really want Darnell Washington in Chicago.
But alas, seems that's not going
to. Ethan Fly or Ethan Eli, we signed Bobby Tonyan. I understand that.
I made these mocks like on Tuesday and Wednesday. Like, I'm not making – look, we have real jobs. I have a super real job. I treated like 12 patients today. I'm not updating my mock when they signed Bobby Tonyan or anything like that. So I'm sorry. It is what it is. And I found the worst picture of him I possibly could, by the way, for this. If you're not watching,
he looks like he's 300 pounds.
It's not flattering.
Oh, hey, look, Mason's back.
Yeah. Anyway, probably flip these. Whatever. Round 2, pick 61. I finally got him in a mock. I was trying for weeks to do this. I couldn't, just how the board fell usually, but I finally got my guy Cody Mauch, tackle technically. North Dakota State, 6'5", 302 pounds with 32 and 3/8 inch arms. So we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, 5.08 40-yard dash with a 1.79 10-yard splits, which I think is very important. Had an interesting path. He started as a tight end, actually, but after adding 40 pounds, moved to offensive line, had some spot starts early on, and then finally got to be a full-timer. 2021 started 15 games at left tackle, and previously, the year before that, he had 2 at right tackle and 7 at left tackle. Arm length and inconsistent footwork are probably going to push him to guard, but at a minimum, you have versatility. Right? At a minimum, you have a guy that if in a spot start, you could slide him out the tackle if you need to. But he is a true drive blocker in the run game, plays with a gritty toughness that the Bears have just consistently lacked on the offensive line, especially on down blocks. His primary goal is to destroy you and take your soul and then remind you about it. He does well on blitz pickups via pretty good communication and shows mobility in his hips to be able to redirect and recover in space. Could be a very good puller on screens and in the zone run game. Pretty good balance and lateral agility. The problem is he does tend to click his heels a lot on pass sets. We haven't really seen him at guard, so there's not a lot of negative I can really throw into that at this point. He can get big grabby. It feels like he's getting beat. And yeah, I mean, it's weird. He's got a long torso and tiny Carnotaurus arms. So he's a guard for me, but definitely a guy you could develop and a guy that you can have become your guard of the future.
And the best ginger flow this side of Andy Dalton.
Oh my God, yes.
Look at that mop.
Oh yeah, and then that was a good point by G Station 7. He did take some snaps at center too at the Senior Bowl, so that just to try to show a little more flexibility in positioning. And Khari is silent. But he's not silent anymore because he made a trade as well, just a mid-draft trade. Well, talk us through this.
Ooh.
So this was me trying to get a little bit of a bridge between where they were, their final pick, like 64, and then they didn't have a pick until like the 100s or something like that, or like the 90s, I should say. So I wanted to get a little bit of coverage in there to pick up some of the third rounders that I feel like we were continually missing on, because I feel like there's a big drop off once you get into the 4th round, where there are a lot of good players, but I feel like some of the ones that I really wanted were consistently, at least in the simulations, still in the 3rd. So I wanted to give it a shot. And pick up another 4th rounder, because there are, again, a bunch of really nice 4th rounders projected to be in those ranges.
Well, and I love this. And I mean, the only reason I didn't do this is because I traded up earlier, and with our current rules, we can only trade once in this. Those rules are going to be gone in our future picks. But I mean, this is awesome. I mean, this is what you should do right now, right? I mean, you have a lot of holes. You need as many swings at the apple as you can get. And if you get an extra 4th rounder,
swings at the apple, guys.
Yeah, swings at the apple. Is that not how you say it?
Bites at the apple, bro.
Okay, you know what? I like swings at the apple, because swings at bat, bite of the apple, you put them together, you use both phrases. I mean, it's just, you cover all your bases.
Or like swings at the piñata, maybe?
He even got the accent in there. I'm just, swings at the pinata. That's what I'll say.
The pinata? Dog.
This is where we take a less official break, and we're going to plug our draft party. Basically, we are going to, Danny and myself, along with anyone, we're going to fly Khari out. Obviously, he's going to definitely be there.
Friend of the show, Khari Thompson.
At Noon Whistle Brewing Company. This is the one in Lombard, Illinois. There's 2 locations. Don't go to the other one. Thursday on draft, the first round of the draft. So we'll be there at 6 p.m. through whenever we decide we're leaving. And we're going to be hanging with you guys, talking, ahead of time what we think is going to happen. And then we're going to be popping in live to do a podcast from there with some of the other individuals from the family that is Windy City Gridiron. We're going to do some cool stuff. We're working on some promotions for you guys. We're going to do some giveaways. 2 that I know for sure we're doing. We're going to give away a Hypersphere, which is a cool recovery tool that you can use. We're giving away a DJ Moore jersey. It will not be there. We're going to get your size and everything, because I'm not going to just buy a jersey and hope it fits you. So we'll get your information and all that jazz. And then there might be more coming too. But yeah, get there. It's going to be super fun. Just a cool way to hang out with y'all. And thank you guys for, being listeners to the show, all 76 of you that are currently here listening to this.
Fantastic.
So Khari still doesn't get to go since he traded so far down.
Jerk.
But Danny and I happen to take the same guy at the same pick. Even with the signing of Billings today, I still like this individual. Danny, why don't you go first?
I really like Keanu Benton. He is a prototypical one tech or your nose guard, nose tackle, however you want to phrase him, 0, 1, or 2 tech. He's built like a grown ass man is how I would phrase him. He doesn't have any thin limbs. He's real filled out everywhere. Stout at the point of attack, delivers a powerful punch in every way, shape, and form when he engages with the offensive line. And once he, decides to anchor down, you're not moving him off his spot, at least from what he's shown. And and for all the good he does, have his issues of he doesn't rush the passer extremely well. He's kind of stiff and not overly fluid, but he is what he is. He's a rock solid defender at what he actually is asked to do. And the bunny hood, Mason, is just too much for me to keep talking. I need you to continue on your thoughts of Keanu Benton.
I figured it would be a nice distraction for you. I realized I wasn't wearing it, and then I was like, oh wait, shoot, I should put the ears up. Yeah,
we are coming up on Easter.
One of my favorite things about him is that he qualified twice for Wisconsin State Wrestling. As a former collegiate wrestler, I think I love that. You talk to some of these offensive and defensive linemen, and they do mention how it's tougher going against people who know about leverage and everything like that. And for him, that's important. And we'll get into why in a second. But yeah, 2021, when they had the leading run defense, he was the leader with 25 tackles, 5 for loss, 2.5 sacks, even though he's not really a pass rusher in this. He plays with size and persistence, full-time starter for 4 seasons, heavy hands, able to knock pass sets off balance, will stuff the run, blue chip kind of guy. But he needs to be more consistent with explosiveness early in the rep. Can linger on blocks too long. It's like he gets a little mad at the guy who's blocking him and says, I'm going to bury you. It's like, no, get out of the way and get to the ball. And the reason he's here, like I said, he's blue chip run defense, but his pass rush is not a thing, really. He can kind of do it, but it's not something that you're drafting him for. You're hoping that he can develop something along the way.
What's kind of, now that I'm thinking on it, who he kind of reminds me of, just literal build and play style. He's kind of like Ashawn Robinson was coming out of Alabama. Just that's that same. This is really what he's good at. He's awesome at. Don't ask him to do anything else because he really can't do much else, and that's okay.
Do what you do and just do it well.
Yeah.
I am back up again. Oh, I'm not. Sorry, this is Khari. I don't know why my name's still there. Didn't edit.
Yeah, seriously. I was about to say, didn't y'all just do this?
Stupid Mason.
This is Khari's. Ignore the fact my name is there.
We are just taking all the Badgers. That's all we're doing.
Straight
okay, yeah. There we go.
Go ahead.
Yep, center. He's athletic. We already did this, right? So
moving right along.
We already did the scouting report on this guy. Bears need interior offensive lineman, specifically center. He's quick. He can move. Fits well in the scheme. Good job, guys. Go team.
Woo!
I don't know. I thought you had something different to add. Plus, I really wanted to use the second picture because, again, look how awesome that is.
That is quintessential offensive line here. I would say this, it doesn't necessarily mean that Cody Whitehair is 1,000% gone. I think if he's healthy, then he's a guy that has the versatility to play anywhere on the interior offensive line if you think that he's one of the best 5. But yeah, I think.
And lost in it, Khari, is he was good before he got hurt last year. He actually was productive. He just got hurt and then he came back and he wasn't the same.
Yeah. So, I've been kind of on the cut Whitehair train for a while, but he gives you the option to do it. And if you like your other options, this is what it's all about.
Yep. And we said this at the top of the show. Ryan Pohl said, put your best 5 out there. You collect all the linemen that you can with the assets you have, and you figure out who your best 5 and best 3 backups are, or whatever combination you want, and you go from there. All right. The correct name is on there. Round 3, pick 74. Someone I took previously, and I love his game. Khari, why don't you talk about your man here?
So this is perhaps not the outside corner that a lot of people are thinking about. But the reason I went here is because I think Matt Eberflus has done a wonderful job with slot corners and developing them. And I feel like Travius Hodges Tomlinson is a very good mold for that. Where, I mean, like in theory, like you could, if you're a cornerback, you should be able to play anywhere. But they have two solid outside cornerbacks, or at least the theory of having two solid outside cornerbacks. And they might draft another one. Who knows? But I feel like having him in the slot and his athleticism, which you can see here, I think that was always something that the Bears were kind of searching for. Who's the third corner going to be that's solid? And Jalen Jones did a decent job down the stretch, and you had a couple of like undrafted rookies playing well. But I feel like, again, you take somebody with this level of potential and put him in the slot next to a hopefully better developed Kyler Gordon on the outside and Jalen Johnson, at least for this coming year. See how he does. And I feel like you could have one of the better secondaries in the game, assuming that everybody else keeps developing. Jaquan Brisker keeps doing what he's doing. Eddie Jackson comes back healthy. I feel like the Bears secondary was pretty nice, at least in theory, on paper. And towards the end of the year, they started playing a lot better. This would just help that.
Yeah, like he said, he's on the smaller side, so he competes on the outside, but there's just guys who are just going to work him and boss him. So he does need to be in the slot. And I mean, as we know this with specifically Eberflus and the Colts previously. I mean, that slot, that nickelback position is a starter. So you need someone that's going to play it and play it well. Keep on rolling. Round 4, pick 103. Khari's up again.
Let's go. So this just happened to be one of those where I love a guy like, A.T. Perry, and Michael Wilson as well from Stanford. But Jaden Reed got a little bit more juice than those guys. He stood out at the Senior Bowl with his play speed, and I think that having another guy that again could be a yak threat, another downfield threat, that can develop in this offense, because you don't know the futures 100% of Darnell Mooney and Chase Claypool. You would think that Darnell Mooney's getting extended, but if his health is a question, then you need to have young, dynamic guys that are able to step up into that role. To me, Jaden Reed would be able to do that.
There are certain positions that you could just never have enough of, right? Corners one, offensive linemen's one. I do think receiver is one of those two. I mean, you saw last year how the Bears really suffered when you lose a couple of guys, and now all of a sudden you're just in bad position. So having this a Jaden Reed here, I like it, and he's definitely someone who definitely a guy who could fly up the board, especially after he had a good Senior Bowl. Danny's taking a little bit of a sidebar here, so we're going to skip his. Parker Washington.
I'm here.
I'm here. He's here.
Sir,
he's
I am here.
I lied. Parker Washington. Talk about the dude.
One of my favorite receivers to watch in this draft class. He is got a how do I put this? It's the same way I really felt last year about Jahan Dotson coming out of the same program. Little guy, plays real big. It's like he fights for the ball in the air. He's almost elite as a 50-50 guy. He's a good solid route runner. He's strong after the catch. He's not afraid of being hit. Like he plays way bigger than he actually is, and he plays with a winner's mentality in terms of on the film and on the field. You can definitely see what he offers to a coaching staff and what he offers to just the team in terms of like his willingness and his moxie to play football. One of my favorites in the draft. Now, what he lacks, not the best athlete. He's kind of slow to gear up, gear down, and really accelerate. So he's kind of like a contested catch guy while being small. So he might be good in the slot, but I really like him. He's thoroughly enjoyable to watch.
All right, I finally get a tackle. I got Blake Freeland, BYU, 6'8".
My guys, how the hell did he last till the fourth?
I don't know. He was there. I just rolled with it. I don't think he'll be there. But 4-year starter, team captain. I mean, he crushed the combine. He was ranked number 1 amongst offensive tackles in terms of athleticism. 4'9", 840, 10-foot broad jump. He is, like I said, tall, tons of length, and surprisingly fluid for a guy that big. Can mirror defenders really, really well. Has a strong punch in pass protection. Lateral mobility for zone schemes, and with great height comes great responsibility. And unfortunately, he doesn't have the core stability to match that responsibility right now. He needs to get stronger there. His drive blocking is a bit below average and has trouble getting leverage at times in the run game. So, I mean, he's an unfinished product with a modest ceiling, but with some of those tools he has, I mean, he could be a bit of a dude. Khari, round 4, pick 112.
I was like, where's the name? Where's the graphic? Luke Schoonmaker, a guy that is, he was at the Shrine Bowl, so I've been looking at him a bit from a Patriots perspective, as well. Mocked him there a couple of times, but you see the kind of length and athleticism and pass catching ability that he has. Again, offers a slightly different skill set than Cole Kmet does, where I think Schoonmaker's a little bit more of a receiver and a tight end's body. And again, the Patriots just went ahead, or rather the Bears just went ahead and kind of threw a wrench into this by signing Robert Tonyan. But I would still do this because, again, Tonyan's on a 1-year deal, and you get a developmental guy who is, again, a little bit more of this new age tight end that can go out, catch passes for you, attack all the parts of the field that you want. Good hands, can make contested catches.
Which is really what you need out of your tight end. Danny, pick 120 in the 4th. What a shot.
All right. It's the other Maryland cornerback. We got ourselves a Jacorian Bennett. Tested very well to kind of make it easy. Super fluid, easy athlete. The only thing I think he might lack is like recovery speed, but he's super aggressive, super willing and wanting to engage in the activity of football, run support, getting up in a receiver's chest, playing jam or press, and he's big enough, he's strong enough to do it. I guess the other thing is with him is the production is kind of not there. He had a handful of dropped interceptions, and I think he was penalized upwards of 10 or 12 times his final 2 years at Maryland. So he's a little grabby, a little handsy, but the natural and raw athleticism and ability to just do things other people can't do, it's what you're banking on here. Like, he would not need to go see Mason for his hips and ankle mobility because he is moving around and flipping his hips with ease. He mirrors and shadows and can run. He actually, foot usage-wise, when he's within himself and not overly antsy, he kind of reminds me a bit of Prince Amukamara, who had some of the best feet I can ever remember looking at on a cornerback, where he could just mirror and shadow whoever he was on.
Khari, round 4, pick 133.
Yeah, I'm just over here snapping them up. Moro Ojomo. Look, another guy that I can see as another just B-gap defender, good, solid body in there to defend against the run. And I think that there's a little bit of a potential when you look at his kind of frame and size, that maybe there's a little bit of that early down outside run defender as well. I've been a huge fan of collecting those kinds of bodies for the defensive line, guys that can play everywhere. We talked about some interchangeability with the front. I think he gives you that. And I think that, okay, maybe he starts off as a rotational guy, but to me, I could see that being a potential interior starter down the line once you get a little seasoning in him.
It's funny. I had him too. I almost took him just because I like what he's got going for him around this pick. Danny, round 4, pick 133, staying on the defensive line.
Yep. Similar thing to what Khari was saying. You kind of just trying to stack bodies when you're not having too many, warm bodies, let alone good bodies along your defensive line. I think they've got 3 or 4 total under contract right now, between their defensive ends and their defensive tackles. So Henry is kind of more of your power rusher. He doesn't really have he has good, not great athleticism. He's strong. He delivers a strong punch to the chest, but he might lack a little bit in the way of edge setting. So strong base, so upper body strength, not so much lower body strength. But when he does get his head of steam, he transitions speed to power well, which is something you always want. But he needs to work on all his pass rush moves. It is what it is. He's a 4th-round defensive end prospect. You hope he hits. He's got some tools to work with. He's got some talent and production, as do most of those Clemson defensive linemen that come out. But I don't know. He was more just kind of like a name I knew on the board that I liked, not loved at that moment in time for that pick. It's more just getting warm bodies.
Interesting. I'm finally back up after, due to some of my trades, I didn't have a ton of any fourth rounders. Round 5, pick 137.
Breaking news, Mason. Bears are signing Panthers running back Deontay Foreman to a 1-year, $3 million deal.
Hey.
All right. Well, now they're not going to draft the guy I have on the screen here, Danny.
Yeah, get wrecked.
Couldn't have waited. Honestly, I love Deontay Foreman. I mean, it sucks that he got hurt like he did because it sapped a lot of his athleticism. But I mean, he did well for the Panthers last year.
He was a really good prospect coming out of Texas years ago, actually.
Yeah.
Yes.
So now you don't need Bijan. You have a Texas running back.
Yeah, and we can. Yeah, I'm going to say that. I'm not going to say what I was going to say. That would have been very, very bad.
Well, I'll still talk about Deuce Vaughn, I guess. now since he's here. Short Kings rejoice. 5'5", 179 pounds. He plays very similar to Jacquizz Rodgers, if you remember from the Atlanta days. But Rodgers was heavier than Vaughn is at a similar height. He's super versatile, productive, durable back. I mean, he had a productive career in the Big 12, rushed for more than 3,000 yards, 43 touchdowns. In 2022 alone, he had 9 touchdowns and over 1,500 yards. He could see any small crease in the defense, find a hole, get vertical, get yardage. Pretty tough for defenders to identify him for obvious reasons. And by the time they do, he's able to accelerate, smooth change of direction, easily sidestep early penetration, and pretty insane contact balance. Pretty hard to bring down even at his size. And he can run routes from the slot on empty sets. The measurables are what some teams are going to hate, right? I mean, 5'5", it's tough. He can take run off track for no reason. Like all of a sudden it's like, why are you not going the direction you're supposed to be going? Not sure how he's going to handle blitz pickups. I can only imagine it. Like imagine a Tremaine Edmonds coming on a blitz and him trying to block that. A regional scout for the NAFC team said he's tough and he's fun to watch, but that's an impossible sell in our building because of the size. I think he makes it in the league though. So cross that off the board. Deontay Foreman's on your team.
Cross Bijan off the board. Any running back?
Round 5, pick 137.
Kobe Turner. Yeah, basically for the exact same reasoning, more or less, that I went ahead and got Morrow with the previous pick. Again, I'm just stacking them up because, yes, they're going to sign more defensive tackles, I would assume. But especially if they're on 1 to 2 year deals, it doesn't necessarily mean they are locks to make the team. It makes me think of, and again, I don't want to call this back in the same way because I feel like the idea of it was good. The players they picked were not so good. Remember when they went with Ego Ferguson and Will Sutton with back-to-back picks back in the day to try and shore up the defensive line? I mean, look, the difference is that this is on the 4th and 5th round, and you're taking flyers on guys that were productive in college. And Kobe Turner's insanely well graded on PFF, like one of the highest overall prospect grades in every category, which just makes me think man, why does this guy get picked so low?
I don't know. I have the same thing. He keeps popping up late in the draft, and I'm just like,
I believe
why?
I took him in my last one too.
Yeah,
just because he's a nice player. I don't know why he's projected so low, but for whatever reason he is. So,
Danny, round 5, pick 137.
This is your utter traits pick. Bryce Ford Wheaton, wide receiver, West Virginia. He went to the combine and he shredded it. He shattered it, did everything that you could want to do for a guy who the only reason I don't have him as an undrafted free agent is because of what he did at the combine. He had 300-yard games in total in his entirety of college. That's it. He doesn't do much on film. He's large. He's clearly fast. He's got some contested catchability. He's hard to jam because he is so big and strong. He's 6'4", 220 plus, and he's running a 4.3 40. I mean, he's a specimen. There's no way around it. But he's kind of like the lab concoction someone drew up to play football, but it didn't work. Like, damn it, he should be good, but he's not. So I would love for him to be like kind of your Velus Jones replacement, which is kind of what I was thinking. Like, you can just cut bait with Velus Jones and bring in just a marvel of a physical specimen. But I don't think he's particularly good. Like, it's more just you're betting on upside of the physical nature of him.
You should be his publicist. That makes me want to draft him.
That he's built in a lab, but it went wrong.
Yeah, that sounds awful. Round 5, pick 149. This is one of my favorite late picks. Yaya Diaby, out of Louisville, 6'3", 263. His athleticism score in the combine ranked him second amongst defensive ends. The thing that caught the first time I really saw him was the combine running his 40. I mean, he ran a 4.51 at 263 pounds. That's pretty damn fast with a 1.56 10-yard split. He had a pretty thin frame coming out of high school, so he didn't get many scholarships. So he went the JUCO route, and he ended up getting to Louisville. He plays strong. Like, he is a strong guy. Play at the point of attack. He can strike, separate well, uses pinch and pull technique to yank blockers off balance. Power rusher with lateral quickness and short area burst will make him pretty ideal for twists and games up front, which when you don't have just a ton of talent, being able to do those games is huge. He needs more skill moves, though. He just usually relies on how fast and how strong he is. And if you take him, he gets kind of like, okay, now what do I do? He needs more moves. He needs to be able to stack that. But at this point, you are drafting as Danny did with his last pick. He's not necessarily built in a lab, maybe more of a garage, I guess. But, his defensive IQ has been questioned. Haven't you been able to elevate to that next place? And I think part of it is just like he hasn't really had to. Like, when he was in JUCO, he was just always the biggest, strongest, fastest. And even at Louisville, he kind of fell in that category too. So, can he now, once he's amongst the big boys, develop some of that? Danny, same pick, 149 in the 5th round. A guy that I drafted 2 mocks ago, maybe?
I believe you did, yeah. So this was more just he's got good traits. He's got very consistent, if not unspectacular film. He does his job well. He does flash athleticism, but he just doesn't do anything spectacularly on film. He's solid, steady, and just kind of does what he's asked to do. It's nothing wrong with that. And this is where you're getting to the point of you're looking for the intangibles, right? He was a 3-time captain, I believe, for Tulane's defense. He, is the film room warrior. I'm guessing he spends a lot of time in the weight room given how he tested. It's everything that you could want as a coach for a guy that's probably going to be a good special teamer given his natural athleticism. He could probably fill in a pinch because of his experience at Tulane. He played a lot of snaps there as a linebacker for him. I don't know. It's boring pick, and they probably don't need a linebacker quote unquote need a linebacker anymore at this point. But he's just someone that was there, probably the best player I saw available at the time, and just was like, all right, cool. Let's take the linebacker who's gonna help immediately in some fashion, and is going to be a good presence in the locker room.
Yeah, going to do a ton on special teams for you. Like, literally just rack up the tackles. Khari, same pick, 149, 5th round.
Yep, give me the super dynamic running back, which, again, they're stacking running backs right now, but here's a guy that maybe isn't going to help you out so much in the pass blocking department, but he can catch the passes, and good Lord, when he gets the ball in his hands, he can really run. You can get him on kick returns, like a third of the kick returns that he had went for like 20-plus yards. So this is just a dynamic guy that adds to the speed that that Ryan Poles wants to have on his team.
I really like him, and on building the board with Robert, I actually compared him to like a twitched up Theo Riddick. He doesn't do a lot in the running game. He is almost exclusively used as a passer, a pass catcher. It feels like over there for them. because he's diminutive. He's tiny, but he is electric. He's fun. I like the pick.
Keep it rolling, Khari. Round 6, pick 106. A guy that I'm pretty sure you made up.
He's a Madden generated player.
Sal, like a straight, like a hog. I mean, it's perfect. But again, give me a guy who can move. He's big, interior guy who's more athletic than you think he is at that size. And I just feel like, regardless of who it is, I mean, I've gone through a couple different iterations of this. You know, they're going to draft offensive linemen aside from just tackle number 1, right? And then we're just going to call it a day. They're going to want developmental guys later on, see if you can mold them and see if they can take over as eventual starters. That's what the Patriots do. They routinely turn, 5th, 6th, and 7th round guards into starters, that stay in the league for like 10 years. See if you can do that here.
In all seriousness, I know I joked about him like not being a real person, but that's your last pick. Your last person, by the way, is a created character, but we'll get there. That's one reason I love the combine is because I had no idea who he was. I was watching the offensive line 40 and drills, and I was like, wow, this guy moves really well. So I like City Sal as a late flyer. I am up with my final pick, round 7, pick 219, Will Mallory. He is the quintessential big receiver, essentially, as a tight end. He really doesn't give you anything in terms of blocking. Like, if you put him on the edge alone with an edge rusher, Justin would die. I just don't trust his blocking whatsoever. But as a 7th round pick pass catcher, he's awesome. Athleticism score, it was ranked 5th at the combine, 4.5 40-yard dash with a 36.5 vert, 10'1" broad jump. He's a move tight end with good build-up speed and athleticism needed as a route runner. His production was often off the play action in rub routes, but he has the potential to use some of that athleticism to create separation. Long strides tend to sneak up on defenders on seam routes, and I think that's something that Justin, he did that a lot in college to his tight ends, was that seam route, just perfect ball over the top. He'd do well with that here. Above average run after the catch when he gets his legs rolling. But he needs to be a bit more aggressive as a catcher. Sometimes when defenders cloud that space, he just loses the ball for some reason. He's too big to let that happen. So if he could figure out how to at least get in the way of a blitzer or an edge rusher, that would be preferred. Last pick for Khari, again, this guy that I didn't know existed until you sent me your mock.
Hey, another Shrine Bowl guy, Kadeem Telfer. Massive. Like, we're talking like, what is it, like 6'8", 320. But again, you would think a guy like that wouldn't fit on the Chicago Bears, but you watch some of the way that he can get up to the second level and get out on the edge. I mean, he's kind of like Trent Brown, but down like 30 or 40 pounds, because Trent Brown can move. You just don't realize it because he's so massive. This guy is, I think, an interesting developmental prospect as a tackle, where it's one of those classic upside picks.
And that's what this round is. Just get bodies that maybe can become something. Danny, your final pick, sticking with the final quarterback route that you've done a couple times here.
Yep. So it's more just, I don't know really what Malik Cunningham does at the next level. I'm just intrigued by his natural football prowess. He wasn't a particularly quote-unquote great quarterback at Louisville. He was productive, but that they weren't winning many games while he was there. Real good athlete. He's actually got a plus arm. Like, I don't think he's got a great arm, but he's got a good enough arm to make all the throws if he were to stay there. But his best stuff comes in the fact that he's impossible to tackle, it feels like at times on film. He just frenetic feet. He doesn't stop moving. He's real fast in a straight line. And I guess he wanted to stay a quarterback, you really got to kind of keep him in like a rhythm. He's not really a broken play quarterback where he's making plays with his feet to extend the play to pass downfield. If he's taking off, he's taking off. That's just what he does. So it's more just get a really good athlete who's shown to be good with the football in his hands in your building and see what happens. Maybe he sticks a quarterback and you can tie him on the practice squad as you develop him. Maybe he tries to go the Denard Robinson route and you just try to play him at running back. I'm not the person that tries to change people's positions very often, but his natural instincts, sort of like when Jordan Lynch was coming out of Northern Illinois, that his best stuff was shown when he was running with the football, not necessarily throwing it. And that's okay.
And for those who are, sitting there saying, well, the Bears just signed PJ Walker and cut Trevor Siemian, why? And it's like, well, first of all, you need camp arms. You need it. Second of all, I truly believe you should always be, whether it's round 6, 7, undrafted free agent, you should be developing a quarterback on your practice squad or something of that nature. Like, if someone really wants to sign Malik Cunningham off of your practice squad and give him an active roster spot, good for them. But, you should be doing the best you can to get these players going. So these are the mocks. Myself, Danny, and Khari. I'm not going to read all these if you're listening to the podcast. Hopefully you remember them. Also, I'll post something tomorrow with these if you want to see what they are. So check Twitter out for that. You can see one of the biggest differences is the swing in picks, right? I gave up a pick while, both Danny and Khari gained 2. So 3 pick difference there. Bigger rookie classes for them. Danny Marcos says do better. You should take that to heart. Absolutely.
My day is ruined over the guy named Marcos who just doesn't know me.
Just destroyed you.
How will I ever financially recover from this?
I basically looked at it as, give me blue chip Will Anderson, and I don't end up drafting, like, what did I give up? Pick 133. Moro Ojomo or KJ Henry. And I was like, okay, I'm okay with that. Any thoughts before we get out of here? We went way longer than I expected and wanted.
Well, three voices, a lot of mouths to feed.
Yeah. Thank you all so much for inviting me on. And I'm sure we'll do it again at some point.
As Danny said, friend of the podcast.
Gentlemen, good night.
Good night to all. Bear down. We getting out of here. I have a new pet I need to go check out. Goodbye.